attending the Universalist Church. My name is Samantha Evans, and I'm a worship associate here at Paint Branch, one of 7 lay members who collaborates with our minister in presenting Sunday worship services. We are a welcoming congregation. No matter your religious background, political ideology, sexual orientation, gender identity, national origin, physical ability, age, or race, you are welcome here. I would like to extend a special welcome to any newcomers we may have here with us today. If you are visiting Paint Branch for the first or second time, you might like to fly under the radar, and that's fine. However, if you feel outgoing today, please rise or raise your hand so that we can know you are here. Welcome. Our guest minister today is Reverend Diane Teichert. Diane served as minister of Paint Branch from 2009 until she retired from full-time ministry due to disabilities, remaining from a 2014 stroke. Before coming to Maryland in 2009, she served several congregations in Massachusetts, following a 20-year career as a labor and community organizer. We are so excited to have you here with us today. We will now light our unison chalice lighting. The words are found in your order of service. We will read them first in Spanish and then in English. And I now invite Evan to come light the chalice. Move English and Spanish. Spring forward mistake. We light this chalice to celebrate Unitarian Universalism. This is the church of the open mind, the helping hands, the loving heart, and the radiant spirit. Enseñamos este país para celebrar el unitarismo, universalismo. Esta es la iglesia de la mente abierta, de las manos unidas, del amor del corazón y del espíritu radiante.
Thank you for the warm welcome. When I resigned as your minister a year after my stroke, I didn't expect to stand here again. And I'm so thankful that you called as your minister someone who wanted a good relationship with me. I remember telling Reverend Rachel in one of our first meetings that I wasn't interested in guest preaching, and especially not at Paint Branch Unitarian Universalist Church. But things change, people change. So after telling the story and preaching the sermon you'll hear today in 6 other UU congregations, I contacted Rachel and said I'd kind of like to retire the sermon and offer it here first. And she invited me to do so, and today is the day. I'm so glad to be here. So in honor of all this change we all experience, our call to worship this morning is from a song I love, especially one sung by Nina Simone, written by the late Bernard Eigner. Everything must change. Everything must change. Nothing stays the same. Everyone will change. No one stays the same. The young become the old, and mysteries do unfold. For that's the way of time. No one and nothing goes unchanged. Now we're going to sing together hymn number 1053. And as we did here a month or 2 ago, I invite you to sing to each other. So turn slightly and face across the aisle so that we're singing the song to each other, So this is an ancient story. Some say it's from China and some say it's from India. But it goes so far back that it's from a time when people didn't get their water out of faucets. Can you believe that? There was no faucet to turn on in your kitchen or your bathroom or anywhere else. So how did people get water? They carried it in buckets. And this is a story about someone who carried 2 buckets made of clay. And it's hard for me to show you, but there was a pole going across. Yeah, you can mimic it. They had a long stick or a pole over their shoulders, that's right. And on each end was a clay pot. And in this story, someone went from their home at the top of the hill all the way down to the bottom to where there was a stream, filled the clay pots with water and carried them way back up to where they lived. Now, every day this happened. Down the hill, fill the pots, up the hill. And after a few years, one of the pots said to the water carrier, "I feel so bad. There's a crack on my side, and all this time I've been getting to the top of the hill with only a half a pot of water left. I haven't been taking my whole share up there." And the water carrier said, "Look up the hill and look on the side of the path that's your side. What's growing there? Flowers. Flowers all up alongside the path to the house on your side. I knew that you were dripping water all the way up to the top, and I planted seeds there. And because you were dripping water, these seeds grew into flowers, and we've been cutting these flowers for our table and sharing them with our neighbors. And because of you and your crack, we've all been enjoying these beautiful flowers." You stop and think about that. None of us are perfect, and each of us has some way that we make the world beautiful because of how we're not perfect. This is something you might talk about at home with your parents. They're not perfect either. Right? So, thank you for listening to my story, and we'll sing together one time, and then together after the first time we sing our song, you'll leave for your classes.
diagnosed with a learning difference in elementary school. Having a learning difference was a label that I really struggled to accept. I was deeply uncomfortable and ashamed to be different than my classmates. It was something I actively hid from those around me until I was 16. College was a huge time of growth for me in all aspects of my life, but also in the work that I did to accept and become comfortable with having a learning difference. One of my undergrad policies was that students had to self-disclose their accommodations to their professors, which was a daunting task for someone who spent most of their life not disclosing their differences. It was during this process of self-disclosure that something in my life shifted. I was telling my English 101 professor about my learning difference, and without taking a beat, she told me that she expected the same level of work from me as all the other students in the class. It was in this moment that I realized the shame I was carrying was eternal. I was not less than for having a label that was given to me as a child, nor were the other people viewing me as less. I will be forever grateful for that English teacher's offhand comment about my learning difference. She really helped me understand that my worth was so much more than I had been giving myself credit for. I spent 4 years in college working really hard on being comfortable and proud of my learning difference. It is during those 4 years that I realized I am so much more than just one thing, just one label. I am multifaceted and intersectional person. And then everything changed when I was 21. I saw a new doctor who gave all of her new patients a brief brain injury screening. She immediately told me that she could not diagnose me, but she really suggested I see a specialist. And all of a sudden, my life shifted again. I was right about to start law school, and it turned out I had a traumatic brain injury, a brain injury that occurred when I was 2 and a half. I spent the summer before law school doing vision therapy, but I stopped when I went to law school. Having a TBI or traumatic brain injury is so much different than being dyslexic. I can fix and improve my TBI so the side effects will not majorly impact my life. While my dyslexia was not something that was ever going to get away or get better. It just was. I spent almost 2 years in vision therapy, attending sessions twice a week. It is one of the most challenging things I have ever had to do, and it also completely changed my life. All of a sudden, a label that was given to me in elementary school that I had struggled with for years, that I had worked so hard to accept and be proud of, was not a part of me anymore. It was replaced with a new label, one that comes with different assumptions and struggles. I cannot tell you how many times I have told someone I have a traumatic brain injury that they would have never guessed because, and I quote, "I don't look like someone with a brain injury." Which I don't get, but okay. So depending on my mood, I either thank them, and I'm like, cool, appreciate that, or I challenge them and I ask them, what does someone with a brain injury look like? That does not go as well, you know. Since being diagnosed and completing vision therapy, I have worked really hard to accept and be open about my new diagnosis. I am proud to carry the label of someone with a traumatic brain injury. But even with the comfortability of having this new label, I still feel a little anxious when I tell new people. Everyone has a different level of knowledge of traumatic brain injuries, and I'm still afraid, like I was in elementary school, that sharing this part of myself will cause others to look at me differently, to think I am less capable. This is something I am still working on, especially in context with my working life. I am hopeful that after I graduate with my master's in social work in the spring of 2021, I will be able to work with brain injury patients, to be able to support them as I was supported during my own diagnosis.
sort of a riff on the chorus of Leonard Cohen's song, Anthem. And I want to give a shout out to Elizabeth Porter and David Chapman for learning it, especially for today. Thank you so much. I plan to do the sermon in 2 parts, the first a little longer than the second. After the first part, we'll sing together the chorus, remaining seated. I'll pose a few questions for silent reflection after we sing the chorus together. After the second part, we'll sing the chorus twice for the closing hymn. Before the sermon, though, Ebeth will sing the entire song for us, released in 1992, but written over the course of a decade. The verses of Anthem still feel very current. These times are foreboding in some of the same ways Cohen describes, and even more so, I think. The verses invite deep reflection, but this morning we will dwell only on the chorus. Except I first want to tell you that on the evening of the huge Women's March in Washington, D.C. in January 2017, All Souls Unitarian Church in D.C. held a solidarity sing of this song. They sang in solidarity with, quote, all who will be harmed by the incoming administration. It was backed by a small orchestra. They had several soloists to sing the verses, and the people assembled sang the choruses. And up in the belfry, they have an 1822 Paul Revere bell, which rang at the start of the solidarity sing, and the rope for the bell was, I don't know how they did this, wound down the stairs and held by people of all different ages, hues, ringing the bell. And the video that they took, which you can watch, shows the people in the stairway going down the belfry to the foyer, and then opens up to see the sanctuary full of people, many of them marchers, some of them still wearing their pink hats. I didn't go to the solidarity sing, but I was at the march. I don't know if any of you were at the solidarity sing, but some of you were at the march, yeah. Anyhow, you can find that on the church website if you go to spirituality/music. I watched that video again yesterday, and it's really very moving still after several years.
The words they sang at the break of day
Leonard Cohen's folk song Anthem reminds us that it is through our imperfections that the light gets in, much like the water in the cracked pot gets out. As you can see, I am somewhat cracked. I am somewhat physically disabled. I suffered a major unexplained hemorrhagic stroke almost 6 years ago when I was a very healthy and active 61-year-old. Initially, I could not sit up on the edge of a bed, stand, walk, swallow, read, or use my left arm and hand at all. But with excellent medical care, and here I have to say everybody deserves such excellent medical care, with amazing love and support from my spouse who's here, and my daughter and our son, extended families, our friends, and this congregation. The soup, the rides, the prayers, the thoughts, the love, plus lots of physical therapy. I regained a lot, but not everything. After a year of working hard at it, a gift of time that you gave to me, I decided my recovery was not sufficient to return full-time or even part-time. I resigned, essentially, sadly, also retiring much earlier than I ever expected. Not long after, I heard Leonard Cohen's song, Anthem, performed in a Sunday service at All Souls Unitarian in D.C. by Gordon Kent, a jazz pianist who accompanies himself on the piano. You'll see and hear him if you watch that video I mentioned. I teared up as I listened to him. Do I still have any bells I can ring? Not that what I ever offered to the world was ever perfect, but it certainly is diminished now. More tearing up. My disabled, more cracked than ever self will have to be enough, just as he says. But how? In what ways? What are the bells I still can ring? I'm still answering that question. I find that my disabledness is one of my cracks, and through it some light has come in, some insight, and definitely some new empathy for disabled people, eventually. You see, I had been one of those judgmental people who saw people on mobility scooters at conferences and thought they should just lose some weight, get some exercise, and walk around like the rest of us. Well, guess what? Much like black people may internalize the racism, and women, the misogyny, and queer people, the homophobia of our culture, my own internalized ableism was turning me against this new aspect of myself. When it came time for me to accept that I had recovered as much as I probably would and was tired of being pushed around in a wheelchair, who likes to be pushed around, right, Don? It was clear to me, clear to the people closest to me, but not me, that I should get a mobility scooter. Me in a scooter? Judgmental me? No. Me give up my precious basic 2008 Prius and buy a gas-guzzling, humongous minivan loaded with all the latest electronic features to compensate for my hidden disabilities? No, not me. Eventually, in the fall of 2018, we bought a van, got it fitted with a lift for a scooter, on which I rode here this morning. And here I want to say thank you for having a building that is accessible to people like me. I'm ever grateful for the patient encouragement for the people who loved me best, to acquire a scooter and see that it is a means to living as much of life as I still can, and not to see it as a submission to my disabilities. For the light to get through our cracks, it helps to embrace those cracks. That was a struggle for me. I asked to be referred to a neuropsychologist, a therapist who knows about the plasticity of the human brain and would understand my post-stroke brain scans and neuropsych and cognitive test results. I drove there in the van and parked my scooter in the hallway outside her office. A few sessions in, Dr. Mana Ali put a blank piece of paper in front of me, saying, "We all have multiple identities." I knew that. I nodded. She drew a circle. She said, "This is one of your identities. You're a woman." "Do you identify as white?" she said. I nodded. She drew another circle. "What is your ethnicity?" "German," I said. She drew another circle. And soon she had an overlapping cluster of circles that all formed together into a big circle of circles. You're a spouse, you're a mother, you're an activist, you're a minister. All of this is you. Right. Then she drew another circle way off on the side of the paper. She said, "This is your identity as a disabled person." And then she drew an arrow from that circle to the cluster of circles, and she said, "If you can bring this circle into the cluster of all of these other circles, I think you will feel better. And we will strategize to help you get there." I lit up. An insight had come through the crack. So I wonder, how does this relate to you? I want to pose two questions for you. One, we are each perfectly imperfect. I wonder, what are your cracks, disabilities, or imperfections, hidden or visible? Through them, does light come in? Are there aspects of yourself which you have struggled to accept, through which now insight comes? Or might come if you were accepting? And two, congregations are all perfectly imperfect too. I wonder which identities among you here aren't yet fully accepted and embraced. Are people with those identities present but standing apart, waiting to be embraced and feel empowered? How much more light will get in here when they are not they, but are integral to the we? So I invite you now into some minutes of silent reflection on these questions, one about you and one about the congregation. After the silence, we will sing the chorus once, remaining seated. we sing? Folk song anthem reminds us that it is through our cracks, our imperfections, that the light gets in. Might they also be how our light gets out, like water from the cracked pot that caused the flowers to bloom in the ancient story, like bells that still can ring. After Dr. Ali drew that one lonely circle, I remembered how over the previous years since my stroke, other disabled people had very gradually become my people. It's palpable, not intellectual. I feel it most on Saturdays when I make it to the open gym at the National Rehab Hospital. The gym there is open for free from 10 to 2 on Saturdays. Every hue and ethnicity in DC is represented among the participants, their accompanying aides and family members, and the staff. Older teens to elders, people disabled from birth or from strokes, diseases, auto and biking accidents, traumatic brain injuries, gunshots, and more, come to work out as best we can on the equipment there. I see the same people most times I go. We try to remember each other's names, and everyone is so supportive. Our lights shine for and with each other there. I feel my light gets out and shines brightly there with others who are cracked in one of the ways I too am cracked. Their light gets out too. Each time I go to the open gym, that one circle representing my identity as a disabled person comes closer to that cluster of circles that represents all of who I am. Someday soon, I hope it will be right there in the cluster, an embraced identity. Being at the open gym also widens and diversifies my circle of companions in this journey of life. Without my disability, I wouldn't know them. And because of it, I have been enriched by them, and possibly vice versa. Their light gets out and into me and brightens me as I hope mine gets out to brighten them. Might our cracks, our imperfections, not only be how the light gets in, but also be a way our light gets out, bringing flowers to bloom along the path we walk, like bells that still can ring. Might our lights shine brighter with the wisdom we have gained through knowing we are cracked and imperfect. When I was able-bodied, my judgmental ableism was definitely an imperfection about which I allowed myself to be largely ignorant. Much like we who are white allow ourselves to be ignorant of our racism, we who are straight can be ignorant of our heterosexism and homophobia, and men ignorant of their sexism. Ignorance dims our lights. I'm sure of that. Now my own disability has helped me see my internalized ableism, and my well-being required me to try to heal from it. Doing so has brought me into a wider circle of people, and I've changed for the better. I feel brighter more of the time. especially now in the stories of our country and our planet, I think we have to forget our perfect offerings and pitch in where and when and how we can to ring our bells, the ones that still can ring. For me, the 2017 Women's March was very likely my last big rally. This is a tough admission for a former labor and community organizer and UU minister. We do like to show up, as do many of you. It's not a bell I still can ring. But at the rehab hospital outpatient gym, there is a whiteboard, always with a new weekly inspirational quote. Not long ago, it was about a bill I still can ring. It said, "Success is not what you accomplish, it's what you inspire others to do." It was attributed to someone named Anon. It's not too late for me and anyone in this room, or indeed anyone alive, to inspire others to ring their bells, shine their lights. It's never too late for us to inspire others to, in biblical language, do justice, love mercy, and walk humbly with our God. Or in the words of our UU second principle, to promote justice, equity, and compassion in human affairs, locally, nationally, and globally. So here are two questions for a second time of silent reflection. One, I wonder if you look at this congregation as a cluster of circles, each circle composed of people representing different identities, who is present in the wider area but is missing here? What identities still stand outside? How much more vibrant and alive will the congregation be when more circles are embraced? That could be in coalition work, on concerns you share, as well as in the cluster of people that gathers here to worship, sing, learn, teach, and act together. Two, I wonder how the congregation is inspiring its members and others to ring their bells, shine their lights in these turbulent times when justice, equity, compassion, and the interdependent web of life on earth itself are all so noticeably threatened. Let us pause in a few moments, with a few moments of reflection on these two questions about the congregation. Who is and isn't present with you? And how well are you inspiring engagement? After which I will invite us to rise in body and spirit to sing the chorus again twice. Let's sing now.
Thank you.
May love be what guides us. Love for all the identities of ourselves and of others, as we draw our circles wider and join together, cracks, labels, and all, for justice, equity, and compassion in human affairs and for the interdependent web of our life on earth, our only home. In so doing, may we remember how deeply we are connected, soul to soul. Amen.